Welcome to Hannity and Colmes. I'm Alan Colmes, and we get right to our top story tonight. The controversy that led to the dismissal of Don Imus began with this exchange on his radio show with his producer, Bernard McGUIRK.
Oh, some rough girls from Rutgers, man. They got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's some nappy-headed hoes there, I'm going to tell you that now.
Oh, man.
Man, that's some... Ooh. And the girls from Tennessee, they all look cute, you know, so... Like, kind of like a... I don't know.
Spike Lee thing.
Yeah.
Jigabos versus the Wannabes.
Yeah.
That movie that he had.
Yeah.
Well, Imus' former producer and the man heard on that tape. Bernard McGUIRK joins us now for his first exclusive interview since the controversy began. Bernie, very good to see you again.
Alan,
I and Imus worked together at WNBC.
We certainly did, a number of years ago, absolutely. And I want to apologize, Alan, for characterizing you as we do on the program, insult people. Characterizing you as looking like a ferret in a suit.
No, it's a badge of honor, honestly.
I want to apologize.
To be mentioned on Imus' show is a badge of honor.
And by the way, I apologize also for not wearing a tie tonight. I mean, if John McCain can announce for president in a sweater...
Well, you know what? I'm glad you came with material. That's great. I mean, all right, so what happened?
Well, you heard what happened. I mean, we were...
From your vantage point, what happened?
Well, first of all, I want to just say that I'm here to represent myself. I do not in any way speak for Mr. Imus, who, by the way, conducted himself with dignity and class.
Yeah.
One of the few people, along with the Rutgers basketball team, the women there.
Who, by the way, forgave him, in spite of the fact that his corporate masters did not. But
his corporate masters and some of the other, the terrorists out there, the mob.
Well, we'll get into that, but I'd love to know from your perspective how this all came down.
Well, I mean, we were just we were having a discussion on the air, as you heard. I mean, and again, the context is comedy. It's not a serious sports discussion show, nor is it a meet the press. You know, it's all fun. I mean, that's what we do. We dwell in sort of locker room humor. That's what we did anyway.
You've been doing it for 35 years.
Doing it for 35 years, and nobody took the brunt of some of the savage humor more than Mr. Imus himself. And so, as I was the bald-headed stooge, and he was, pardon my language, a scrotum-faced old dope or whatever it was, and that's just the kind, in that realm that we dwelt. We would do politics and all of that, but that was one element of the program. So this conversation came up, as you saw, and you just played the tape.
At the moment that happened, now some say, well, you actually said the word "ho."
That's right. I did say the word "ho," and again. I mean, it's not a word that people in radio and in the pop culture do not use.
Right.
It derives from the hip-hop community, and we appropriated it. We're trying to be, or I'm trying to be cool. By the way, I came from the streets myself. I grew up in the South Bronx in a housing project. Yeah. I drove a taxi at night in the ghettos in Yonkers and the Bronx, and that was my language. My language is the street language. So I'm not some rich white kid from the suburbs trying to sound. That's what I did. I spoke that way. I could roll this way, that way, whatever.
At the moment that happened, the moment that those few words got said, was there any sense, oh no, this was a mistake, or was it only later that this kind of mushroomed and became something other than what it was at the moment that it took place?
Well, I think it took off. Mr. Imus apologized, and but then of course Al Sharpton got involved. He dusted off his bullhorn.
But when I'm trying to get at the moment that took place, though, was there any sense we've gone too far, or was that not a thought at that moment?
At that particular moment, no, not at that particular moment. That wasn't because again, we engage in this type of humor all the time. I mean, we have people like, say, these renowned authors, Mary and Carol Higgins Clark. They would come on the program, and we would refer to them as the Higgins Clark hoes, for fun. They'd come on, they'd laugh about it. So the use of that word, and it's so prevalent in today's society, and it doesn't mean, a woman who is, promiscuous. It's just a pejorative slang term for a woman, unfortunately. I didn't get the memo that it was elevated to the status or lowered to the status of the N-word.
Bernie.
I hadn't gotten the memo thus far.
Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you being here. He apologized. Now, in light of all that's happened, what do you think about what you said in this thing? You've been fired.
Well, I'm here just to speak for me, and I think obviously it was wrong. I mean, I've been doing the same sort of stuff for years, for 20 years, and I was getting pretty much patted on the back and encouraged and re-signed, and re-signed with raises. I had just signed a long-term contract with them, and everything was great. And it's the type of humor we engaged in was similar to the Trump-Rosie exchange. Animals, fat slob, pig, comb over creep.
You guys had a few names for me, or Imus did over the years.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so sure.
I deserve it. Look, I'm a
we had
Alan
marrying a Filipino bride for her green, so she could get a green card. I mean, no, of course. I mean, that's just Imus. I mean, we characterize him as looking like somebody who survived a partial birth abortion, or stuff like that. I mean, it was just. But I'm saying. That is the
let me
level of humor.
Was it then? Should he have? Was it right for him to apologize?
Of course it was. Of course. No, there was initially legitimate anger, and it was absolutely some. I mean, who knew? I didn't know anything about it. The Cinderella team. The girls, when they found out about it, when somebody wanted to use it to further their own. Career or because maybe Barack Obama was getting too much press or something, when somebody jumped in to do that to get his face, then then that's when it started to take off in a mob frenzy in that direction. Before that, the apology, absolutely, anger was legitimate, the apology was appropriate, and that was fine.
You never spoke publicly about this in any way.
No, I didn't. No.
Do you think you should have apologized to the girls if you had an opportunity? You have an opportunity now.
I would have, sure. I mean,
you can now. Do you want to say anything to them?
I apologize. I have a daughter who's an 11-year-old girl. She plays on a basketball team, and if anybody characterized her directly as the H word, I would I'd kick their teeth in. If I saw it, happen in real time, but. We dwelt in a world of comedy, ridicule, and at the time it was just an abstract group of women. Of course, in retrospect, that wasn't the case. But and again, so the apologies, all of that legitimate, necessary. But again, then afterward, it took on a mob frenzy, a media frenzy. And you had Al Sharpton, who was the kind of guy who'd park in a handicap spot, or this guy all of a sudden is leading the charge. This guy who'd bring a wheelchair to an amusement park so he could jump the lines because it's all about him. And
Well, let me ask you about that, because we were just in the background. We're showing some of Al Sharpton here. When Imus, in your view, when he went on his radio show, and I confronted him. I recently had a debate with Al Sharpton, and really seemed to be begging for forgiveness. And he said it not once but twice on his radio show. Said it was wrong that I did that. I'm sorry. It was hurtful. And I want an opportunity to make this right, and Sharpton wouldn't accept the apology.
Right. Well, Sharpton. Well, first of all, I'm not here to talk about Mr. Imus. He did his thing. He held his head high, and you can't say enough about the class that he exhibited alongside the girls of the team. But Sharpton, of course, being the classless clown that he is, just used the situation, in my humble opinion, to further his own goals, to further himself. And I don't know, the media treated him like he was Nelson Mandela, for God's sakes, without asking him about his past inflammatory comments. This sanctimonious skunk, I mean, he said some horrible things which you've confronted him on. You did so last Friday, but nobody else did. They treated him, again, like he was somebody.
Take a quick break.